My Mother, The Person and the Patient is an original podcast written and hosted by me, Fortuna Kuso. This podcast is about my mother, Timira Abdussamid Mohammed, Ayaya we call her, and that's the Somali word for grandmother, and her great-grandchildren call her Ayaya too, and that is their way of saying great-grandmother. I've been off work since June 5th, and I didn't go back to work in September when the schools reopened. So now I'm going back to work 10th of October, Tuesday after Thanksgiving Monday. And as I am preparing myself to go back to work and readjust to the routine of getting to work on time, I am already worried. My anxiety is already so high that I'm worried if I'm going to make it to work on time Tuesday morning. I am calling the agency that's sending me people to help me out, to tell them, listen, I am going back to work and I need people to be here on time to help me out as on time as possible. So if I say 6:45 and somebody comes 7 o'clock, that 15-minute period is the only grace period that I have to be able to get to work on time. So that is a big challenge for me. And I've been trying to communicate with them that for the last 2 weeks. And it seems like the closest I get to the day of returning to work, the more out of balance my care services are. For the last few weeks, I lost personal care support hours for my mother. And when I get them, I would get them at a time when they're not used to me. If I get the morning hour at 11 o'clock, that doesn't do me any good because 11 is neither lunch nor breakfast. And if I'm going to work, I am not here at 11 o'clock. That is my challenge now. And I've been really, really worried about this and thinking about what would happen come Tuesday morning when I need to be at work and I don't have that person here. And I contacted the agency and told them this is what I need, but it doesn't look like it's working. It doesn't look like it's doing the trick. So what I had to decide is to plan on my own, preparing for this upcoming week with the pretense that I am not getting any services. So I have to plan in the understanding that I am not getting anybody from the agency. So if I go in with that mindset, I would not be waiting, sitting there frantically checking my watch and saying, it's 6:50, it's 6:55, it's 6:58, it's 7 o'clock, it's 7:05. Oh my God, I'm going to be late for work. I don't want to be in that place. So I am telling myself I am going to be on my own. If that means I wake up 5:45 instead of 6 o'clock and have that 15 extra minutes to take time with my mother doing it on my own, that's what I'm going to do. If that means I do all my planning night before, my lunch, my outfit, my shower, everything for myself, so I can devote from 6 o'clock to 7:30 just getting my mother ready. So I have an hour and a half instead of having just an hour. So from the time I wake up 6 o'clock until I have to leave, just devoted to my mother. And thinking about it like I am not getting any help outside. And if I get the person coming in on time, fantastic. That is gravy on the meat. But I have the meat itself, which is I am counting on myself, doing it that way and reminding myself for the last couple of days, this is how it's going to be. I am not getting anybody coming from outside. I am doing it on my own, reduced my anxiety, and that has made all the difference. When you listen to how we arrived at my mother's diagnosis and what followed, it's so easy to see her just as the patient, to see her as nothing more than the disease that reduced her to shell of her old self. But I want to also to tell you about my mother, the person, the fierce woman that told her stories unapologetically, celebrating the beautiful parts and harsh realities equally. I want to share with you the stories she told us about her life as a girl growing up in a small village, the tales that marked her adulthood. I want to share with you all her losses and the ultimate winnings. The following chapter is one of those stories reconstructed from my childhood memory. Timira woke up next morning determined to make the other woman want to work with her. She wanted to avoid her husband from getting involved. They would be inclined to work with me if they saw how hard I worked, finishing those big chores alone, she thought herself. She started her first chore that day earlier than she'd ever done before. She attacked the grimy shower bays, the pungent scent of cleaning supplies, and the acrid odor of industrial cleaners filled her nostrils. She scrubbed vigorously, making sure the walls shone. She hosed the tile floor a third time until the water ran clean. She moved to her next task. The hiss, steam, and clunk of utensils filled the air as Timiro scrubbed the grime off the massive meat-cutting board. The galley was a vast steel expanse of gleaming service and buzzing machinery. Sweat glistened on her brow as she exerted herself, feeling the weight of time bearing on her. Timira was absorbed in the task before her, and she didn't notice Layla and the other two wives walk into the slaughterhouse until they were standing on the other side of the sink. Layla, the other two on either side of her, stared at Timira like a hawk, her arms crossed. She wore a skeptical frown. You didn't clean the detergent off the floor? Layla's eyes narrowed as she shared knowing glances with the other two. My son slipped and fell. Layla's voice cut through the sound of the knives. Timiro dropped into the sink. Saw bubbles jumped up with a whoosh. Timiro stared at them, shocked at the accusation. I had to rinse it myself so other children didn't hurt themselves. Timira wanted to shout as loud as she could, I did clean it. She almost reached for Layla's hand to take her back to the communal shower building and walk her through the bays one at a time, to point out the sparkling walls and shining floors. But she didn't, because she knew pointing out something Layla and the others saw but chose to ignore would do her no good. Still, she couldn't let them take her off the course of her mission to make them like her. Timiro gritted her teeth, her determination to win their favor unwavering. I'll look into it when I finish here, she said. She turned back to the utensils soaking in the sink. Timiro paid extra attention to the task throughout the shower bays the next time it was her turn to clean. On her knees, she scrubbed the spaces where the tiles met until the water from the hose ran clean. She walked from one end to the other to ensure the floor wasn't slippery. They would have nothing to complain about, she told her husband that evening. But soon, Timira realized she was wrong, for the woman found something to criticize her about. You didn't fill in the shampoo containers, Layla approached Timira in the mess hall on their way to dinner one evening. Do you know how long it took me to get to the dry goods storage for it? My son is standing there wet and cold. Timira filled all 7 containers to the top. Could you not have gone to the next bay instead of the storage shed? The statement came more as a challenge than a suggestion. Perhaps you went to a bay another family had used before yours. It's not my job to search other bays than the one I'm using. Layla spoke very loudly even though she was only 5 feet from Timiro. It's yours to ensure each container is full. They were all full when I finished cleaning this morning, Timira said. But next time, I'll wait until you finish washing your children. Are you mocking me? Layla yelled so loud that 2 other wives with their children stopped to listen. Layla turned around in a huff, took her 2 children by the hands, and led them inside for their meal. In the following chore schedule meeting, Layla introduced a new idea. It appears to me some of us are using the facilities more than others. Her gaze landed on Timiro. So from today on, we will have assigned time for each of us. Did someone complain? One of the other women asked. No, Layla said. I think this will save time and give everyone equal access. Another woman opened her mouth to speak, but Layla waved her quiet and continued announcing the dates and times when each wife could use one of the bays for their children. The schedule worked for 2 weeks before Timira noticed a change. The familiar sound of running water and children's laughter echoed inside the shower area as she moved from one bay to another, even though she was assigned to use stall number 3. All 7 were in use. It wasn't until it happened the 3rd time that Timira approached Layla to inquire. She hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest before finally summoning the courage to speak up. Layla, she began, her tone polite but firm. I've noticed my time keeps changing and it's always getting pushed back. What's going on? Layla's expression remained composed and she flashed a seemingly innocent smile. Oh, Timiro, she replied, her voice dripping with sugary sweetness. I had to make some adjustment because Halima had a baby and needed earlier time. Timiro, however, was not easily swayed. Her skepticism lingered like a cloud overhead. This is the 3rd time it happened to me. Her voice tinged with exasperation, while others go in and out without any issues. Layla's smile faltered, revealing a glimpse of something more sinister beneath the facade. Her tone grew colder, her words laced with malice. Timiro, she retorted, this is the only change I've made to help the new mother. You must be mistaken to say it happened more than once. It did. It happened twice last week and once already this week. No, it didn't. Timiro spoke to Layla thrice about the ever-changing shower schedule for the next 3 weeks. In each encounter that followed the first one, it became apparent to Timiro this was not about fairness. It was a tool wielded to isolate and ostracize her. And as the days passed, Timiro found herself not only waiting for her turn, but waiting to uncover the full extent of Layla's intentions. The disruptions that began once or twice a week became a daily occurrence. Timiro stood outside the communal showers each evening, clutching the towels, her frustration inching toward its zenith. She'd scanned the full shower bays, once again pushed out of her spot, her children tugged at her sleeves, their patience waning. My Mother, The Person and the Patient can be found in Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to follow, like, and share, and join me next week as I share with you another episode of my mother's journey as both the person and the patient. Thank you.